Howdy, howdy, fellow movie watchers, and welcome back for another edition of the Wisco Movie Watchers Podcast, brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, we are your hosts, Evan Davies, and our favorite internet bald man, Davies, our movie expert, even though Cole Sprouse fans say otherwise. Can't even dignify that with a response. You're like, no, I won't do it. Won't do it whatsoever. Alright, today we're going to be welcoming you back to our Cult Classic series, because right in time for Halloween, we are going to be reviewing, discussing, whatever the case may be, the Utter Vibes show known as the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I'm pretty sure, just by Dylan's face alone, we're going to have two very different opinions on this movie.
Maybe.
Go for it.
Yeah, initial thoughts is I actually did like it way more than I expected it to, because This was my first time seeing it was this time.
Yep.
I really didn't expect to like it really at all, because I expected it to be a lot more horror comedy, and that's really not my thing generally. And also, I had no idea that this was like a full-blown musical.
Yeah.
I thought this had like one or two music numbers in it. I didn't know it was like the whole thing was musical.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was a huge surprise to me. I didn't know that.
I think it was probably best that I didn't give you as much information than I probably could have, because then you kind of just go in fresh. The funny part about it is when you run in certain circles, for instance, hyper liberal circles such as myself and my wife do, and you walk in circles where, especially when you're a part of circles that just the LGBTQ plus community is just an everyday part of your life, as always, it's really hard to find someone who doesn't know this movie, especially in that circle, because it's so friendly to that community, and it's like iconic, especially in that community as well. And what's funny is there is a vibe though here in which, just like you said, you didn't know anything about it. I remember the first time I heard about it, before I sat down and watched it with Ab, like almost 10 years ago, maybe 10 years plus ago. I was like, oh, what the hell is this? This weird movie with Tim Curry running around in women's underwear. Okay. And it just looks very grainy, and you don't get the real vibe of the movie off of the still images and things. So you're just like, I don't know if I need to see this movie. And the second you do, you're super rewarded, because it's nothing like you expect it to be. I think it's for the best.
I think I knew three things about it. I knew there was a music number only because The Perks of Being a Wallflower has like that scene where they're like doing the music number in it.
Sure.
I knew it had Tim Curry in it, and I knew it had Susan Sarandon. That was all I knew. That's it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And it's like pretty crazy, like the start of their careers, Tim Curry and Susan Sarandon being in this.
Well, I think the easiest way to give initial thoughts on this for me is this movie is just a vibe. You either like the vibe or you don't. Most people like the vibe, because the vast majority of people who sit down and watch it end up really enjoying it. But half the time you can't actually pinpoint why you like it. You just do. And I think that's a real testament to the movie half the time. You're just like, it's just a vibe. It's just a vibe.
I think if you don't like musicals, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Because as a musical, it's not great. I wouldn't say any of the music is great in it.
Whoa, how dare you? How dare you?
I wouldn't, like, honestly, none of the music numbers in it are, like, all that catchy or anything.
Oh, Time Warp, baby.
That's, like, the one that's, like, standout. That's the one that actually, like, is semi catchy, but like other than that, it's like to me, it doesn't stand out like compared to like the classics like Sound of Music, Singing in the Rain, stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but like also this is like wildly different in tone to those.
Extremely different.
Um,
This movie's extremely different from the opening credits.
yeah,
They just have a mouth that's just talking to you on screen.
yeah. Talk about off-putting. Ugh.
It can be a little off-putting. Again, it's one of those that, for someone who's a little uneasy about trying the movie, could easily go, I don't know about that one. I'll sit through it, I guess, but
Just staring at a mouth for 2 minutes is just not something that's fun.
yeah. So it's also funny because this just brings up like old childcare brain stuff. Do you remember Face from Nick Jr.? You were more of a Nick Jr. watcher than I was. You remember Face? And it was just
No,
like it was
not
just a
ringing a
smiley
bell.
face and two eyes on Nick Jr. And I know Face more because of a documentary I watched, but you actually were a Nick Jr. watcher
I'm
because
gonna look it up.
and it would just be a face that like changed colors and he was the host of Nick Jr. while you watched Blue's Clues. So because I never really was Nick Jr. Watcher. I just got inundated with Power Rangers
Oh,
and Batman
okay,
right away.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So Face breaks rules that you're not supposed to break for the most part in traditional pedagogy, childcare stuff, in which kids get freaked out by disembodied parts, things that don't immediately have structure to them,
Mm-hmm.
and so like Face breaks that rule. This is just like Face times a million, where
Yeah,
where you're just like, okay, it's just a mouth on a black screen.
yeah.
Okay. But again, it fits the vibe. It's such a unique spin on a traditional credit scene, and it's now iconic. But I can definitely understand why a first time viewer would be like, huh, okay.
No, it's just like it doesn't matter whose mouth it is.
Yeah,
I don't want to look at a mouth for 2 minutes.
right, yeah, exactly. I mean, I get that.
This is so it could be Margot Robbie's mouth, and I don't want to at it for that long.
Very fair. I mean, I don't know many people that want to stare at someone's mouth anyways, so it's part of the
Yeah.
off-putting nature of things. But yeah, I just from the get-go, this movie's a vibe. Where would you like to start? Since you were your first time watcher, obviously I can kind of go wherever you want to go. But
Um. Well, the first note I had was when they first got to the like, what would you call it? A castle?
yeah, the
mansion?
castle. Yeah, the castle.
Like for a low budget movie, that's a location.
That
I
is a
mean,
location.
in terms of like the movie overall,
Yeah.
I think the real MVP is that whoever is the set designer, the production designer,
Oh yeah.
that is the MVP.
So
Like
so I
it's
will.
incredible.
I think you're dead on with that one. That is true. Before we straight get to the castle, I would like to mention Denton, Texas is the location of the church, and they're allegedly in Denton, Texas the whole time, or near Denton. Home of the famous Von Erich family for our pro wrestling fans out there. But I love how. Did you notice Frankenfurter and the minions in the back of like the photos when they were taking the photos at the church of the married couple and the family? Did you notice they were in the back of that photo? Yeah, so Tim Curry is stark pastor look, just stone faced, and the American Gothic couple, like recreating that painting, is Riff Raff and Magenta in American Gothic.
Okay.
And the entire time they're doing that first music number,
Yeah.
where obviously Brad and Janet get engaged, are in love, but constantly are having miscues. The people in the church, that's Riff Raff, Magenta, and Columbia. And so I just
Also,
think,
proposing at a wedding. That's like,
Well, I mean, it's not during the ceremony. It's not. It's after everything happens.
isn't that like rule number one? Don't do that.
That is very uncouth, especially in modern contexts. That used to be more favorably looked upon, I think, from some
Scott
of the.
Speed, Scott Speedman does it in The Strangers, and that's why he dies.
That's why he dies.
Yep, that's exactly why he dies.
I clearly don't remember anything about the strangers except Liv Tyler just being
Yeah,
horrified the entire time.
that's the they hint at it at the beginning of the movie.
Interesting. No, the thing is, I would say if you are going to propose at a wedding, which don't, just don't fucking do that. That's someone else's
Yeah,
day. Don't make it yours. But if you were going to do that, this is the best way to do it. Everyone's gone. No one's there anymore. You're still both high on the emotions of love of, oh my god, these people we love are getting married. No one's there anymore, and he proposes. So he's not ruining anybody's time. He's not
sure,
ruining anybody's day.
sure.
You know, and they do it the very classic movie way, where they don't talk about a reception. They just drive off into the honeymoon phase as a married
Hmm.
couple, which is always strange because like, when you know weddings as an adult, you just go, wait, they're just going to the reception. Like, especially now, it's like, wait, you have to do the reception, and you have to do all these fucking pictures and all this shit in between if you're a married couple. You have to do all that crap. And this one's just like, nope, get in this beat down car and fucking go. And you're like, okay.
Hey, you think Denton, Texas is close to Elma, Texas?
Ooh. Well, wait. What were they? Did they go to Houston or did they go to Dallas for their games?
I want to say Dallas.
Then possibly yes, actually. Denton, Texas is outside of Dallas.
For
I
anyone that doesn't know, Elma, Texas is the setting of the greatest movie ever, The Big Green.
It is certainly one of your favorite and one of my favorite childhood movies. Yes.
It's amazing.
And I think I have to go edit my. I think I forgot to put that on, to prepare for one of our shows when we eventually do like our top 100 countdown. Not sure if I made that, if I got that subsection. I kind of do it in categorical. Like I just go, okay, here's all my franchise films. Here's all my Batman films. Here's all my Star Wars that
Uh-huh.
I would put in there, and I usually just go Sandlot, Little Giants, Mighty Ducks, Big Green, bam, and just throw them up there right away. So thank you for the reminder on that one. But theoretically, it is possible because I Denton I know is outside of Dallas because I mentioned the Von Erichs. The reason I knew Denton was because of watching nameplates from back in the '80s of World Class Championship Wrestling, which was like groundbreaking at the time. It was all based out of Dallas, Texas. So the Von Erich family was like the hometown boys. You didn't fuck with the Von Erichs. Very tragic family story, and they're the subject. Their family is the subject of the Iron Claw that just came out with Zac
Okay.
Efron
Yeah.
and Jeremy Allen White. So they are that family is again in the spotlight because of that movie. But I was just like, Denton, Texas. Why do I know that? I know it's for professional wrestling, but I can't remember why. So the first thing I did when the movie came on was what famous wrestler, Denton, Texas, and they're like, Von Erichs. I was like, oh, of course. So it's just funny to see that. But yes, theoretically, Alma, Texas could be. I don't even know if Alma's a real place, but
Either do I.
Alma could be theoretically close to Denton. But who knows? But it is fun. I just loved that. It was really smart to put Frankenfurter and the minions in the background because it's the only piece of traditional that you get in the movie where you get the over the top like wedding day dress and tuxedo combos. You're getting all that, and it's like it's just threatening in the background. It's like it's like normal life is always trying to make you normal. and I think that's kind of like the message of the movie. And it's just always impending danger, and nothing's really normal. So just don't try to be normal. So it is an interesting message, and I just wanted to mention that one too because I think it goes well with your set director and your production designer piece, because if you don't get that, you don't have that little tangibility of reality. You just then go into the loony bin and you're like, where are we? Why are we doing this? Why is this so weird? Like, you have that little piece of tangibility, which I think is really smart.
I think it would still work if you just cut straight to the car, them driving,
Yeah.
because they are so like normal at the beginning,
Yes.
especially because it's Susan Sarandon and she's great in everything.
Pretty much.
I didn't look up who the guy is.
Barry Bostwick, my dude.
Okay.
Do you remember Spin
Yeah.
City with Michael J. Fox back in the day?
Yes.
He's the mayor.
Yes. Yeah, he looked really familiar. I just didn't look up like
He's been
what
in
else I'd seen
he's
him in.
been in like a million rando things that everybody knows, but he's always like a not a bit player, but a prominent like character actor for all of them.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah,
go,
he has
I know
a
that
face
guy.
that is like, yeah, he has a very recognizable face.
Yeah. So it's certainly interesting to see him. I've liked him in everything I've ever seen him in, so every time I see him I'm like, nice. But
Yeah.
it was also fun because I knew him first from Spin City. Because I would watch random episodes of Spin City in between stuff during the summer when I had nothing to do, but no one would wake up to do anything. So I'd either watch ESPN or like the USA Network constantly, and they for some reason always play like Spin City after reruns of American Gladiators. And I was just like, I like this guy. And I was really watching because of Michael J. Fox, but I was like, I like this guy. He's cool. So when I first went back and watched Rocky Horror for the first time, I was like, it's the fucking mayor! No way! And no one else would even say anything remotely close to that. They'd be like, yeah, he's known for this movie. I'd be like, shut up. He's the mayor in Spin City. So it's fun to see that. But you're right. They're incredibly normal. I think it could work. I just think it's really smart because they give you little doses of reality throughout. So it's never too far. I was just thinking about this from an MCU perspective, or the DCU is starting to release their new stuff under James Gunn. And they're going polar opposite. They're doing, let's just dive right in. Everyone accepts superheroes as superheroes. Boom. And their first animated show is the Creature Commandos, is coming out in December. They just released the first trailer this week, I want to say, or the last couple days. And they're doing the polar opposite, where there's no tangibility to reality. They just dump head first. Whereas like Marvel, I think it was really smart. They started with Iron Man, so there's a tangibility to it where you go, okay, I could believe someone could make a metal suit that could make them almost superhero-like. It's not too far of a stretch. And then you slowly get into, oh, hey, there's this living tree that's super enormous and will stab people with its roots. And you're like, what? And there's a raccoon who's the best marksman in the universe, kind of thing, you know. So that's always quite interesting to see where you go. I think Rocky Horror does that in spades, where they go, okay, dose of reality, back to the zaniness. Little tidbit of reality, back to the zaniness. I think that's always very smart on their.
Yeah. Yeah, once Tim Curry enters, that's when the real like movie begins, really.
Oh yeah.
Cuz like honestly, the up until then the story doesn't really begin until then, really.
Yes, it is pretty late to introduce your major. He's the driver of the film. So
Yeah.
it is pretty late in a film to bring him out. I think if you start with Tim Curry right away, you lose people because you kind of have to lull them into getting into the movie a little bit. Especially,
Oh yeah, for sure.
this movie's released in what, 1975? This
Yeah.
is so counterculture forward for 75. Like,
Yeah. And also it's nice that they build up his character. Like they talk about his character a lot before they show him,
yes.
you know. Also just mentioning 1975, it's really I was thinking about it. It's really weird that like it's coming out at a time when the same exact year um there's another movie that famously involves another trans character with Dog Day Afternoon, where Al Pacino is robbing a bank so he can pay for his um, trans, I don't know, I guess his trans girlfriend's sex change operation
Wow, okay.
the same exact year. So it's like these two radical movies that like just happen to be the same exact year.
That is pretty wild. I didn't know that movie existed. Also, in the context of that, he follows up Godfather and Godfather 2 with a movie like that. That's fucking bold. That's bold, dude.
No. Not Coppola. It's Sidney Lumet.
No, I know, but to have Pacino anchor both of those
Pacino,
films
yeah.
and then
And
go.
Pacino, yeah, it's Pacino and it's I'm blanking on his name now. Crap, why can I not think of his name? He's the little brother in Godfather.
Fredo? You talking about that guy?
Yeah, Fredo.
Okay.
Michael Caviezel? Caviezel?
Something maybe.
Something like
I'd
that.
I'd have to look it up. It's
I
been a
know
while since I've seen the cast of that. So
Yeah, it's a really tragic story because he died of cancer. I know that when he was dating Meryl Streep.
of course.
But yeah, it's really weird. Like, just happens to be coming out the same exact year.
Well,
Like,
I think what's wild.
but Dog Day Afternoon is actually based on a true story.
Huh. Well, here's what I would say about something is if you go back and look, there's a lot of stuff that you could see the influences of culture taking steps forward in acceptance
Sure.
or showing prominent members of society that never get prominence in feature films.
Yeah.
That is prominent in not prominent, but you're starting to see that eke out in the late 60s and the 70s. And then Reagan happens.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to muscle-bound white man is our savior.
True. Yeah, I'm just wondering when like Harvey Milk was and when like the Stonewall riot were.
So Stonewall was in 69, I want to say, and I know Milk was in 78.
Okay, so Harvey Milk is a little bit later. But
It,
he is like up and coming around that time then.
yeah, and so people don't realize how prominent culture shifts with politics, how prominent culture shifts with how society deems things appropriate or not. And when we look at societally, what's so funny in the 80s is you're seeing these huge pushes in violence and these huge pushes in big action set pieces and heroes are men. They're men. Damn it. And the only thing that really counterbalances that is it's the start of the teen movie. It's the start of younger people really being the center of film for a lot of time. But all the stuff that was gaining traction, Rocky Horror, Dog Day Afternoon, whatever the case may be, obviously Harvey Milk, the advent of Stonewall, all these different things, it all kind of gets just shut down. And it's just like, nope, this is Reagan's America, motherfuckers. If you're not toting guns and muscle bound, you're not a fucking hero. You're like, oh,
yeah,
okay, that's cool, I guess.
well, it just shows how like radical the '70s were in general. because like you have like not just in film, but like in every single aspect of life.
Yeah.
But like yeah, in film you have like all the new up and comers coming
Hmm.
up in the 70s.
Yep.
Coppola, Lucas, Scorsese, Spielberg, like all the new movie brats coming up.
Yeah.
And then like the French New Wave and all that was in the 60s, and all those people are learning from that. So it's like kind of like the American New Wave is coming from that. So it makes perfect sense that all these radical ideas are shifting over to America
Right.
after.
And I think it's extremely a positive because it changes culture for the better.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I think it's also a huge reflection of the times. People don't realize how shitty the 70s were for many people. like,
Oh yeah.
like the 60s are the 60s is always remembered for free love or Vietnam. It's not remembered for much else. Everyone's always like flower power or life sucks, everything sucks, everyone's getting blown up. This is stupid and I hate life, right? The 70s, you lost all the flower power and you kind of just got the remnants of Vietnam where nobody trusts anybody of power. Nobody trusts government. No one really trusts culture in general. And the only thing that's positive about that is usually when people don't trust societal norms anymore, it pushes forward things that aren't societally deemed normal
Yeah.
into the mainstream or normal. So it would make sense as to why you see more prominence from black figures. You see more prominence in
Yeah.
people of color. You see more prominence, people of prominence in the LGBTQ plus community. Like you, because
Yeah, and that's
it's
why
outside the
you
norm.
get
They're going
so
there.
much like and that's why you get so much like although society is not doing great in the 70s, like crime is like going rampant.
Yep.
Like there are so many fucking serial killers in the 70s.
Yep.
Um but like because of all that, like art is exploding in a really cool way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it's not a good thing that society is crumbling, but like you have like really cool art, like the black exploitation stuff is exploding, and then um you have like this massive like counterculture pretty much
Yeah.
of just like really different radical, like an up and coming generation of filmmakers that are like want to subvert everything that's been built before that.
Yeah.
Because the 60s is still like pretty much the last remnants of the Hollywood studio system.
Yeah.
Because in like the Oscars in the 60s, there are what? Um, three or four giant big budget musicals that win, like My Fair Lady, Sound of Music, Oliver. There's like all these movies, and then finally in '69 you get this really radical change with Midnight Cowboy, and then starting then you start getting all this huge change.
Yeah.
Finally, like that's when you start seeing like, okay, there's a shift coming for the better.
Yeah. I think that's recognition of culture and culture are always 5 to 10 years or even more behind each other.
Yeah,
And I
unfortunately.
and I think that's where I think that's where we always are. You know, it's.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, we're in political times right now recording this. Do you really know that many people that are really affected by negatively by the presence of the LGBTQ community? No.
No.
Granted, do we run in circles that are accepting? Of course we do, because that's what we believe, and we don't think that people should be shitty towards people just because of who they are. it's not our bag. But at the same time, there's like, even I look at vestiges of our extended family and things of that nature that aren't as accepting. They're still just like, oh, they're gonna be there. Like, that's as negative as they get. They're just like, not my cup of tea, but whatever. Like, that's oddly still kind of like, okay, whatever. So, but yet, we're still seeing stupid attack ads and Fox News and things of that nature go like, how are you going to solve the problem with men playing women's sports? And you're like, nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares. 5% of you actually give a shit about this because you're out of your fucking minds. If that's one of your biggest issues to solve in a presidential race, you're not informed enough to be an intelligent voter. Like, it's just illogical,
Yeah.
you know? And so we're 10 to 15, 20 years almost taken back by the culture we have now. Whereas mainstream culture in general, we are now seeing huge swaths of representation, making up for years of no representation. Where we're seeing gay characters everywhere. We're seeing characters of color everywhere.
Yeah.
We're seeing leads.
That's probably a good way of.
All different ways of thinking.
That's probably a good way. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Is like, they're always 10 years too late.
Yeah.
Of representing what's going on. Yeah.
Well, again, it's so prominent in everything that you do, and there's certain industries that are very good at trying to set a trend. But those are usually the industries that also they're trying to set a trend all the time. So then you don't pay as much attention to them. Whereas, you know, like the comic industry is always really good at that. And I know we're getting very off topic from Rocky Horror, but it's all to show how avant-garde and how new and fresh Rocky Horror is. Is like the comic book industry is like that. Where, hey, shit's dark and scary. What if we just made our characters dark and scary? Okay. And then that's really the advent that leads to the prominence of, you know, Michael Keaton's Batman. Is they're just like, oh, Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, done. Let's do Batman. This is what we want on screen. Because they just took the times and went, why don't we make this? And just make it as acceptable as possible for a modern audience at the time.
Yeah.
But that, really, people already felt that way 10 years ago. And it's just...
Yeah, it's really like you're reflecting on stuff that happened 10 years before that, really.
Yeah. And...
Because like music and everything was like... There's obviously like Marvin Gaye was pretty... It didn't take 10 years to make like anti-war stuff for him.
Yeah.
But like they were still making anti-war music well into the late 70s. Apocalypse Now is 79, and that's like one of the later anti-war... Well, actually, 89 is Born on the 4th of July, and that's a anti-war Vietnam movie.
Right.
So it's just like, we're still doing it 20 years later.
Yeah. And it's just, where is the real... You know, you don't get many pieces of... That's why when lightning strikes and you get something that's so perfect for the times, it's reason it's special. You can get great films out of nowhere, but if they don't inherently fit the time, it doesn't work.
But that's also why they are rarely successful at the time.
Yes.
Because Rocky Horror only became a cult classic. It wasn't successful at the time.
Rocky Horror is a testament to fans and to people just saying, we will not let this die. It's funny because 10 years later, Tim Curry gets another one in Clue. Clue's not successful in 85. It's just like, oh, there's that fun movie Clue. But people refuse to let that movie die because they love it. And now Clue is an event for people half the time. We're like, oh shit, Clue's on TV? fuck yeah, I'll watch Clue.
Yeah.
And Rocky Horror is the same thing. I still like Rocky Horror created the audience movie, and not in the sense of blockbusters. Oh, people, audiences need to go see this, but the audiences are active participants in a movie where it's
Hmm.
we all have to dress up, we all have to go to the midnight screening. This is a celebration of life. It's not just a movie. This is a celebration of who we are. We can all be who we are and what we want to be when we're here together. It's a beautiful thing that Rocky Horror does. And it's so fun to get that because it has this level of dedication that's really only ever seen for like science fiction and horror films. And
Yeah, pretty much.
this is neither. I guess you could theoretically say it's a science fiction film, but no one's gonna
Sort of, I guess.
no one's gonna argue that one strongly. This is just a strange musical that captured the hearts and minds of an entire generation. But it's the underground. It's the you don't understand. You don't understand. This shows you how we feel and what we want to be, and I fucking love that. And it's vibes, and I adore that. But take it away. We went down a 20-minute rabbit hole of history and fun. This is really the history podcast at this point, but
Yeah. Also, I've been on a unintentional Tim Curry run lately
sounds like a great
because
time.
I watched this, I watched Clue, and then I watched Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost, and he's a voice in that.
Yes, he is.
And I was like, oh, hey, Tim Curry is in everything.
Pretty soon you're gonna watch Muppet Treasure Island, and you're gonna
Oh,
watch.
yeah.
What else are you gonna watch?
There was something else that I watched that he was in though too lately. Oh, it was a reaction video to the original It miniseries though.
Okay,
So it wasn't like I didn't watch the whole thing or anything. So,
sure. But
but
Tim Curry steals
yeah,
this fucking movie, dude.
my next note was Tim Curry is a great singer.
Tim Curry is great at almost everything he's ever been presented in.
I had to look it up. I was like, is he actually singing? And then when it said, yeah, this is his voice, I was like, if he didn't succeed at acting, he could have straight up been like a rock band frontman.
Yeah.
Like that's how good his voice is.
Oh yeah. No, they have a lot of good voices in this film. They have unique voices too, which I like. Now, does Susan Sarandon actually sing her part?
It sounds like her voice.
It sounds like it. I don't want to say it doesn't.
She doesn't have the strongest voice, I will say.
But at the same time, she actually has a pretty decent voice. But she's never done anything else in prominence to my knowledge that really like has her singing. So that's why I was like, is that her? Because she's had such a long, storied career that it's like,
Yeah, I
you'd
can't
think
think
she
of
would-
another musical.
you'd think that she would be in more stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't think of another musical she's been in.
But it is such a vibe, and I love.
I can think of an Oscar movie she won.
I
But
just
that's about it.
I love the tonal shift once Dr. Frankenfurter shows up. It's a fucking vibe.
Oh yeah, it is a wild shift too.
Because it's they're dipping your toe in, and then you're like, oh wait, what is this? And then he pops up, and they're like, we're gonna be unabashedly different. And I love how self-aware this movie is. This movie never tries to be something it's not. It never tries to be overly serious, overly messagey. It doesn't do anything like that. It doesn't try to be anything else but itself. It's just, they're like, hey, we know we have cheesy dialogue. It's for the fun of it. We don't care. We know this is a weird space.
Yeah.
We're just going to exist in the weird space. We don't care.
Well, that's kind of one of the great things about like all the 70s movies. There really are no like message movies. Like I can't think of a single like great 70s movie that is like a message movie,
Sure.
you know? like they're not trying to like beat you over the head with a message. There's no like crash where they're just beating you over the head. Hey, racism is bad, you know? It's like, yeah, we fucking know that, you idiots. It's just like, yeah, like that's why I think the 70s was so strong with like great cinema. They're not talking down to you.
No, they're just talking to you.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is can something talk to you? Doesn't matter if it's a news broadcast or a film or a piece of music or a book or a comic book. It needs to reach out and touch you where you are, and that's a weird way of saying that, but it needs to be able to speak to you. If it's speaking at you, it doesn't work that well. Speaking to you, you can dive in and do something with it. It's tremendous. I think the whole tonal shift once Frankenfurter shows up is such a phenomenal shift because you see Susan Sarandon's character change a lot, where Janet's just like, this is exciting. And I think that's such a fun piece of where you can see Brad get a little bit more protective and he stops being the. I think it's such a great thing because the understated stuff is he is outside the norm, so now I'm worried. Where it's so funny that they go with Susan Sarandon, who's like, it's not normal, it's not right. Frankenfurter shows up, clearly outside the norm, and she's like, this is exciting, this is fun, we should just go with this kind of thing.
Just as an answer, I looked it up. The only thing I can see that she might also sing in is Enchanted.
That's a long time away.
Yeah, she was a bad guy in that, so I do remember that. But I don't know if she sings in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
To bring it back to the production designer though, I wrote it down. Brian Thompson. He only has 13 other credits on his IMDb. Yeah, I was like, how is that possible?
Yeah, the set direction on this is tremendous. The production design is
I was
so
like,
cool.
I don't know, maybe he like had a tragedy or something. Maybe he died early or something. I was like, that's crazy. Because I would like if he just say this was his first movie and he did it like last year or something.
Yeah,
he'd be working for years.
Oh yeah. No, you can see that.
Like 3 movies a year.
Well, that's the thing that's super cool about. It's what affects mainstream film is these understated movies that kind of just come out of nowhere. The reason that you have people that are like, I like underground stuff, I like indie stuff. Half the time, it's not because they don't want to see big budget stuff or they don't want to see huge spectacles, but they want to see something different. And that's where so many people get their start that are super unique and weird and different. And then they build up something else. You know, it's the same. It's how people work.
This is like proto Tim Burton.
A little bit, and you can like, see that.
It's not as strange as Tim Burton goes, but it's getting there. It's a little more conventional than Tim Burton, but it's like if they had the same cinematography as Tim Burton uses, they could achieve it.
They could get close enough that you could buy it. Yeah. Which I'm glad you mentioned like, the cinematography in this, but
yeah, there's some really cool like some of the shot choices are like really interesting. I really enjoyed some.
It's super distinct. It's very stark. They're always focused on the face in a way that you're not used to, where it's just I love those zooming shots towards Tim Curry, where it's like we're gonna really showcase the mania. We're gonna really showcase the madness, the operatic nature of his face. I love the cuts between Susan Sarandon all the time, where and it shows like Janet's crisis points through cuts. I love that. Like every 2 to 3 seconds, it's different cut, different cut, different cut. And at first, you're like, "What am I watching?" But then when you're starting to get it, you're like, "Wait, this is genius. This is brilliant." That it really helps capture when your mind is racing and you have a billion thoughts trying to figure out a situation. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
It's like what this idea, this idea, this idea, this idea. It's brilliant.
The one shot that I wrote down in particular is the one where they're like the, I guess what you would call like the Frankenstein
Rocky.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the reanimating scene.
Yeah.
Where they're like lowering the camera down, that POV shot.
Yeah.
And it's going straight down. That shot's awesome.
Oh, there's so many cool shots. And I love how many... It's one of those that I think that's a treasure to this movie that no one talks about is the cinematography. Because it really helps you engage with characters.
Mm-hmm.
Where...
Well, also, there are so many shots where the characters are looking straight into the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really thought about it until yesterday. Where I was thinking, that has to be like one of the most challenging things for an actor to do. Because like, you're like, that's like rule number one you learn as an actor. Don't look at the camera.
Don't look at the camera. And
like to sustain a take to look at the camera, that has to be like pretty hard, I would think.
Yeah. No, I loved the classic Janet, Brad, Dr. Scott, Rocky.
That was good.
I love that shot because, and I also started thinking like, how did they shoot that? The editing on that is phenomenal, but I was just wondering like, how did they shoot this? Did they do a single camera on everybody? Did they do multi-camera at the same time? Because then that shot requires 5 cameras. You know,
I would think they did. I would think they did like 4 separate cameras, just 4 separate setups. Yeah,
because I was just like, how many cameras are you using for this shot? Because that's
wild.
Because
they're all tight close-ups, so you can get away with doing that. You know, where you don't show all the cameras. You know.
Yes,
but yeah, that was like my favorite part of like dialogue. Because I was like, okay, that's like one of the more like quirky parts that really, really worked for me.
Yeah, I love the cinematography during Meatloaf's entire cameo of Eddie. I loved how many shots are on his face, or when he's running the motorcycle just in a circle for no reason. The shots through the glass. I'm like, that is such a cool shot. That would be really hard to capture. And now you can see stuff like that in the Batman for a completely different tone.
Mm-hmm.
But to see it in 75 on Meatloaf with a fucking scar in his head, like just going like in a weird, dustied up, gross looking, windshield of a motorcycle, it's awesome. It's a great shot.
I will say though, when he came out of that deep freeze thing,
yeah,
I said out loud, ain't no way that saxophone's working. that reed would be completely frozen. That octave key would be frozen. It wouldn't be working.
I knew
I know.
The funniest part is I fucking knew the second he pulled out that saxophone. I was like, Dylan's gonna have commentary on this one.
Yep. Hey, I know. That thing would not be working.
For those who don't know, Dylan, former saxophone player back in the day.
Hey, I'm relearning.
And that is also something I will give you. Over the last 15 years, since you really stopped playing on a regular basis, you always go back and forth by getting a saxophone and trying to learn again.
Yeah. It's hard to relearn after so many years.
But you try, and that's a lot of credit that a lot of people don't try to do, which I think is truly admirable. But I knew you were gonna have fucking commentary on that goddamn saxophone. I just knew that was what it was gonna be. Uh, but yeah, I just love the entire setup. Think of how much movie takes place in Frank's lab, and the amount
Yeah,
of
quite a
stuff in
bit.
that set. And I love that they really pay attention to the set and use it to their advantage. Where,
Hmm.
oh, we busted a hole in the wall for this. Okay, let's use it instead of going, all right, use the elevator and get in and out every time through this. I love, when Dr. Scott crashes through the wall, they use the hole in the wall again. When there's the other hole in the wall up top, they use that again. They don't just continually go, "Oh, hey, we got to get in and out this way." I really really appreciate that. They pay attention to small details that no one ever thinks about, and they
That's
use it
like
to their advantage.
the one thing I didn't really, I won't say care for, but like didn't understand was why was the Dr. Scott thing even necessary?
It's not. It I think it's just to try to put a button on the movie. Frankly,
Okay.
I think if I were gonna have to argue for Doctor Scott, why why were Brad and Janet going there in the first place? Well, they were trying to go to Doctor Scott's. Why?
Oh, okay. I must have missed that then.
Yeah, that's so when they have the again back to those little doses of reality. The investigator, whoever the fuck, the English guy, whoever the fuck that
Uh-huh.
character's actual name is, the
Oh
criminologist or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
He brings out a map, and then it has the fork in the road that Brad talks about, and it's Frankenfurter's,
Hmm.
Doctor Scott's, and they just went this way and they went the wrong way.
Okay.
But then to make it so that he's secretly working with the FBI, I don't know.
Okay. No. No. Now that you say that, that makes perfect sense. I must have been taking when they said that.
Yeah, and it's a it's just fun because it gives it another dose of both reality, but just a different energy. I think it's fun. I will
Yeah.
say this movie does a really good job of never allowing you to just get stuck in one note. Again, it's really smart. Where at the beginning, it's okay. This is lily white, perfect '70s, picket fence couple. All right, we're now going to enter into this world, and it's a spooky castle at night, and there's a hunchback. Okay, but we know this. We can accept it. We know these worlds. Okay, so we're gonna dip our toe into. Then we're gonna go into. Well, there's this really weird party going on. Then we're gonna jump into it, and then Frankenfurter comes here. Oh, we're gonna lose all semblance of reality, and then they keep the tone the right way. But when they go into those scenes where Frankenfurter has sex with both of them, they
Hmm.
both cheat on each other, which I have a whole list of. Uh, I'm both glad and sad I never used Rocky Horror for an English project back in the day. My English brain was firing on all cylinders after this, especially since uh, from our podcast fame back in the day, Sleepaway Camp, our younger cousins were staying with us this past weekend, or me specifically, so I showed one of them Sleepaway Camp, and she's like, yeah, that's fucked. But that's the one that got my English brain turning so much. So I was already in that space from 2 days prior. So when I rewatched Rocky Horror, I was like, wow, there's a lot of over sexual shit in this that's so wildly different at the time. But then
Hmm.
when it would be very easy once you're past all that to just go, okay, well, Janet apparently just wants to get fucked constantly. Brad's gone past his limits, but he's still upset. And you need that change of energy from Dr. Scott. Otherwise, it just becomes Okay, so Frankenfurter just goes around fucking everyone. All right, seems to be the movie. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, and he's so engaging, and he's so. It's such a magnetic performance, and it's such a magnetic character that you can't help but like the character. But they still have
And
to
it's Tim
balance,
Curry.
and it's Tim Curry again. But they have to balance the fact that he is the villain. He is killing people. He's like,
Mm.
he's fucking out of his mind. So it is. You need that balance. So when Dr. Scott comes back, he's just like, hey, killed someone. And I love going back and watching the notes of, like, I forgot like the whole dinner sequence. So for them to like, I don't know if it's just that's where I usually tune out for a little bit during the movie or like go take a break or whatever. But completely forgot that that's just a nod to cannibalism. they're eating
Oh,
Eddie,
sure,
and
yeah.
I was just like, oh shit, how did I never realize this? You know, and I just love
Yeah, they
the.
have.
I
They
just love
really
it.
reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a year prior.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Which clearly you love with the chainsaw in the background.
Oh yeah, I just got that. The new release that they just put out.
Yeah. And it is wild to see in this movie, just to show you how different it is for the times. In this, we have heterosexual sex scenes, we have homosexual sex scenes, we have bi slash pan characters, we have voyeurism, we have super sexual liberation, we have super restrained sexual relations, we have potential incest between Riff Raff and Magenta,
Mm-hmm.
and we have possible orgy slash group sex in the second to last music number. Like, all of that,
Yeah,
and this is 1970 fucking five. Like,
yeah.
no shame in anything. That's great, but it's just like, huh? Voyeurism is
Oh
a
yeah.
little weird, but depending on the
One of the
context
things
of
I
it.
wanted, one of the things I wanted to bring up was because I brought it up earlier, the Dog Day Afternoon. I started listening to Sidney Lumet's book that he wrote, Making Movies, the audiobook on Spotify. And one of the things he talks about is the theme in it. He he kind of makes it sound like he kind of looks down on it. So he like this compared to that, he makes it sound like because he says in the book itself, he views Dog Day Afternoon as, oh, we're not that different from the freaks, right? So
Gotcha.
like he's saying to himself, like he's viewing these characters as freaks.
Yes.
Like Rocky Horror, they're not viewing these characters as freaks.
No.
And that's one of the nicer things about this movie is like it's very accepting of everyone.
It's extremely accepting of everyone, and I love the fact that if you look at the true message of this, it's so smart because at first, if you're just viewing this as, okay, I'm watching a movie, I'm not looking for any messaging whatsoever, and it's not hitting you over the head with messaging, like we said before. So I don't want to take words back from before. It's not trying to hit you over the head with, shouldn't you be more accepting? But if you're actually looking for messaging, in the end, Frankfurter, Frankenfurter, who creates all the chaos, who creates all the outside the norm sexual situations, who creates all the outside the norm, scientific situations, who creates all the murder, he goes down in the end. So you're like, oh, the guy who is outside the norm, who is a danger to people, he gets his comeuppance. So just from a straight movie watching perspective, you're like, okay, like makes sense. But the underlying tone of the whole thing is Brad and Janet are not accepting people at the start. Brad is in theory, but then you see him get challenged on it. Whereas Janet is super conservative because that's not right. And then when she finally just learns to be like, oh, wait, no, I like this, I'm just gonna go with it. It's brilliant because it's just all the Transylvanians. They're just people that enjoy shit. They don't fucking care. And the whole message is like, just if it's pleasurable to you, just fucking do it. Don't worry about what everyone's trying to tell you. If if you are gay, if you are straight, if you are into group sex, if you're into all these different things, just fucking do it. It doesn't matter because it doesn't impact anyone but you, and you need to make yourself happy. Now, I do need to put out, I did also put in possible incest between them. No one do that. That's a bad idea. Don't do that shit. But
Yeah.
everything else is generally acceptable. Voyeurism, you just gotta be careful about the context in which you're doing it, but just be smart.
If it's consensual.
Yes, if it's consensual, go get your rocks off to it. More power to you. Anything else in this movie besides those two, fucking have at it. And voyeurism, just make sure it's consensual. Incest, don't do that shit. That's fucking weird and gross, and no one needs to do that. We don't need goddamn Cersei Lannister, Jaime Lannister bullshit going on. And it is... But again, it's such an accepting movie, where it's just... The whole point is... Yeah, it's outside the norm. But it's really just Frankenfurter trying to find happiness. That's why he's creating all this shit. That's why he's doing all this shit. He's just trying to be happy.
Yeah.
Is there anything really different from that? No.
I just have two more notes. I actually didn't take that many notes because I was just watching the movie because this was my first time.
Yeah.
I had two more notes because I just was very confused about them, honestly.
Okay.
It was on the I can't remember what it's like. It's that big like stage production number.
Sure.
I think it's like I'm going home or something like that.
Yeah.
That number.
Yeah.
Where they show the RKO studios.
Yeah.
I was for the life of me, trying to figure out why the hell they were showing RKO.
They make a lot of references to King Kong, but I don't know why.
Yeah, I was like, why are they showing RKO? Because I was like, okay, this is not an RKO picture because I looked it up. RKO shut down in the late 50s, I want to say. And then also, there's that underwater shot where they show Tim Curry.
Yeah.
Where it's like shot up from underwater up at him,
Yeah.
which is, I have to imagine, a reference to Sunset Boulevard.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, maybe that's an RKO picture and that's a reference to that. But that's not an RKO movie either. So it's like, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why the hell they're referencing that. I mean, I love it because I love that RKO.
Oh, it's iconic.
Studio opening.
It's awesome. It's
I
so
love
cool.
that one.
The only thing I could guess at is there's a lot of love letters to stuff in this movie without overtly saying it. It's obvious, but you know, like even at the end with Magenta having the Bride of Frankenstein's hair, like there's a ton of movies. There's a ton of homage to old horror movies, old science fiction movies, you know, giant monster movies with King Kong, where it's, you know, we're gonna play with this stuff. We're gonna take those things and we're gonna play in that world, but we're not going to do those things. It's the only thing I can really think about it. And they talk a lot about Fay Wray in those songs, in which like I wanted to be her. So ironically, once he's dead, he gets to be Fay Wray with Rocky climbing and making King Kong noises. But yeah, it's not. I don't know if it lands. I don't know if that lands very well. But at the same time, I'm like, it's still fun.
I don't have a problem with it. I just want to know why.
Yeah. And I don't. That's where I could understand that criticism because it's kind of like, I'm here for it. I don't know why you're doing it.
Not even a criticism. I mean, I'm for it. I love the RKO Pictures reference.
Yeah, you love it, but you're like, I don't know why we're doing it, but okay.
And that reference to Sunset Boulevard. I mean, that's an iconic shot, and I love that shot. It's awesome.
Yeah. So It is interesting. Did you have another note, or was that kind of both notes? The underwater
That was
shot.
both.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I just everything about this movie is a fucking vibe, and I adore it. I'm glad that you started to like it because you were
Yeah, I
not
like the.
you're not excited to watch this the first at first.
Yeah, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I still wouldn't say I loved it or anything.
It's fine.
I'd say like out of 10, I'd give it like a 7, maybe.
Okay.
But that's a fair movie. Like,
That's for you. That's actually pretty positive because you don't have many eights, nines, and tens. So
yeah,
so to get
yeah,
a 7 from Dylan Davies is actually pretty impressive.
yeah. 6 is like an average movie. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and that's where I would go. My last note because I like you eventually kind of stopped taking notes as much and just started to enjoy the movie and try to take it in a little bit more. And I can tell how many times I've probably started this movie, gotten through half of it, and then something occurred and I didn't watch the end of the movie. What was certainly this movie isn't super coherent, but it's a fucking vibe. That was my last note. I'm like, it's not super
sure.
coherent, but it's a vibe. And you just kind of you just gotta let it roll. You just gotta let the movie go on and enjoy it for what it is. And I
Hmm.
would say it's a really nice challenge for a modern audience member because eventually it's like you either accept it or you don't, and you just go with it and enjoy it, or you don't. But there is
Yeah.
it's not like other modern movies where you're like, well, what's this about? Why are we doing this? And it tries to rope you back in or some. It's just like this is the movie. Watch it. If you don't like it, okay. If you love it, great. We don't give a fuck. This is the movie. That's all that matters. And it's just a vibe. And if you're for that vibe, it's fun. And it's one of those that I've always wanted to go to a midnight Rocky Horror, but I haven't done so yet. This would just be fun. It'd be interesting to see that environment to see how it would go.
They'll call you a virgin. I think that's what they call people who haven't. Oh wait, no, that's for people who haven't seen the movie at all.
Yeah.
They call them virgins.
Yep. Which
The
which is fun.
just because I'll reference another podcast with Corley and Russ. They talk about it during their sleepaway camp episode, where one of the hosts, Paul Rust, he talks about how he went to a midnight screening of Sleepaway Camp, and he used to call the people who hadn't seen Sleepaway Camp, he used to call them baldies, obviously a
Oh
reference to
God.
the movie. And then when they were walking out of the movie, right afterward, there was a showing of Rocky Horror, and then the people who were waiting for Rocky Horror in line called them norm. And it's like, okay, if you had seen Sleepaway Camp, like, okay, that is anything but a normie movie. Sleepaway Camp is not a normie movie, even compared to Rocky Horror.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Rocky Horror is more out there, but the content of
I don't know.
it is because
Oh, sure.
outside of the final reveal, Sleepaway Camp is very much just
A slasher, yeah.
it's just a slasher movie that you don't see the killer. That's all Sleepaway Camp is, with oddly a child-oriented camp movie
Hmm.
where a kid just continually says pricks, bastards, cocksuckers, fucks. Like that's all Sleepaway Camp is. However, it is funny to have them midnight release it, do the midnight parties of them, and then to go Sleepaway Camp, and then Rocky Horror be like, oh, these fucking normies. It's like, I don't know about that one.
No,
Y'all
yeah.
are more out there at Rocky Horror, so you deserve that. But at the same time, these aren't normies. It's not like someone saw Star Wars,
I
or
just love, yeah. I just love the idea of like two like cult movie people comparing each other, judging each other based on their level of cult movie.
It's kind of like Trekkies and Star Wars fans,
Yeah.
where it's just like you're both fucking nerds. Just accept that you're both fucking nerds.
Mm-hmm.
One of you likes Klingons and one of you likes Jedi. Great.
Yeah.
That's all it is, man. I'm sorry. We need to be specific. One of you likes Wookiees and one of you likes fucking Klingons. Move on.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. Enjoy it. And it's fun. The stupid wars within pop culture are fun, even though they're stupid. They're enjoyable.
To a certain aspect, sure.
As long as it doesn't get too toxic, you're like, yeah, okay, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of like two college football teams going at it, and you're just like, at the end of the day, you're only rooting for the laundry at your school. So
Pretty much.
Not much. Oh, Alabama and the tradition. Oh, Georgia and the tradition. It's like one team is red and black. The other one is crimson and white. They're both southern schools that are good at football. Where's the rest of the differences to make me hate one or the other? Like, either like one or you don't, and that's just how it is. But it is fun to get all of those, all of those populations together to really like fuck with each other, because you're just like, why? You know, I'll pick one or the other by my preference, but I'm not gonna actually like pitchfork and torch out, being like, we're going after him. Like, who fucking cares, man? I would be more of a Star Wars person. I ain't gonna hate on a Trekkie. I have friends that are Trekkies over Star Wars people, and I just go, all right, I don't get that, but y'all do you. Okay. But it is certainly fun. I do need to go to a Rocky Horror Midnight Show eventually, so that'll be a lot of fun. Question is,
I'm sure there's quite a bit of them.
I know Milwaukee, there's them on weekly, and that's
okay.
So that's super cool. I just need to know. Question is, what character do you go as? That's the hard.
Riff Raff.
I could see
I'm
that.
a bald man.
Yes. Admittedly, Magenta's kind of a vibe. Kind of like Magenta quite a bit. Could also Eddie would be cool just because the vest. You're just like, nice, cool.
I think Riff Raff was probably my favorite character.
Okay. I do also love the fact that no matter who you are, you're probably going to have a different character than the majority of your group that you like.
True.
I haven't met many people that are like, it's all Dr. Frankenfurter, it's all Janet, or it's all this. It's all like, everyone has a different character. Magenta doesn't do that much, but I'm still just like, Magenta's a vibe. Nice.
I can't imagine there's many people who actually go at Frankenfurter.
No, you'd be surprised. Because that's the icon. So.
Yeah, but that takes like a certain level of confidence.
Yes. But if you have seen. I can also tell you've not gone to a Comic-Con yet, because when you go to a Comic-Con, even basic cosplay, you're like, that takes a certain level of confidence that I don't know if I have. It's bold. And there are people that will do it and will enjoy it, and good for them. That means the world's a better place when they do that. Because that just means there's more people that are just like, I don't fucking care. I wanted to dress up as this character because I connect with him, so I'm gonna fucking do it. And you're like, good. Good for you.
I'll tell you the one I would never go as. Rocky.
Yeah. Rocky is probably not my vibe either. So my body's not anywhere near that, and I wouldn't really want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I did love the Hermes look. I thought that was an interesting look for him. Just, underwear, boots, and blonde hair, and you're like, huh. Getting real close there. Or the Apollo look kind of thing, where it's like getting too close to the sun. There's a lot of fun subtext to this movie. But overall, very enjoyable. But you enjoyed yourself during this time.
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly so.
Yeah. And would you recommend this movie to others?
Yeah, I would. I think if you know, I would just say have an open mind and go for it.
Yeah, always. And I think this is what else have we done for the cult classic series that is this universally positive? Because not many people hate this movie, which is so funny.
Uh,
I can't think of
I would
anything.
say no one hates the Burbs.
Yeah, no one's really offended by the Burbs. I guess that's true, but it is just fun to get to. But this has been a lot of fun. It was fun to get you in this world because this is a world that I've loved for the last decade plus. So the second I saw it, at first I was like, "This is gonna be dumb." And I watched it, I was like, "This is fucking great. I love this shit." So again, be open minded and enjoy it. But it's a whole heck of a lot of fun. But that is going to do it here, folks, for this episode. God, my northern Wisconsin is coming back, and I don't usually have those traits, so that's bad, folks. But that is going to do it for today's show, folks, out in the world. Go watch this movie, or go watch another movie that you're going to go enjoy. Because that's what it's all about, enjoying your time, watching the movies, and happy Halloween to everybody. I think this is our it's our last calendar show before Halloween season is officially over, but it's never over. But peace, love, and hugs to you all. Go watch a great movie. Goodbye!